Kansas Sports Chatter brings in our next guest, and that is going to be Trent Bright. He is the head coach of the Hodgeman County girls basketball team. Coach, appreciate your time. I mean, you talk about, sub-state, like right in your face, just right around the corner. Like, what is this crunch time like for you?
Well, it is coming down to the end, and every year we start it, and I'm always like, basketball is a long season, drawn out. You have two breaks, but then all of a sudden here's the end, and here we go. It comes quicker than what we always think.
What is that grind like? Because I got to imagine, like this time of the year, you're kind of rejuvenated. I imagine the team is too, because you can kind of see postseason right around the corner, like we mentioned. But like, what are those months like? Especially like January and early February, like?
Well, coming in back from January, coming off a break, you're energized, you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden you've gone through our tournament. And now we're into February, and it is a grind. You have to, especially we've got the 7 seniors this year, which is pretty rare, but it is a grind sometimes with that, and they know the end is coming, and it's just a mix of emotions, I would say, for them. They're excited that now that we are turning towards the postseason, they're really excited for that. Seeing where we sit and where our teams we will be facing kind of gives them a little bit more motivation here at the end.
You mentioned the 7 seniors. Like, what has it been like just following their career paths over the last 4 years?
Well, this group of seniors, they've had a lot of wins for us for the program, and they've contributed a lot of time in the summer, a lot of time during the year. So, I'm just proud of them for sticking it out, and, we're ready to make this last push. Last year we were able to make the state tournament. Lost to a really good Lebo team, and the girls are ready to, all of them said at the beginning of the year, one of their goals was not only to get back, but to improve on last year's state tournament team.
Those 7 seniors, like, what were they like early on? Like, could you kind of see the maturation of them, over the last few years?
They were pretty good in junior high. They were really, and if you look at those 7 seniors, there's not really one that always is doing all the scoring. We're pretty balanced across the board with those 7. They're all pretty athletic, which is a plus. So, when they were younger, you could see it coming. So it was just able to add some things as we were going. They haven't always been able to score the ball that well, but, we've always defended well. And, that keeps us in a lot of games and gives us an opportunity to win a lot of games. And, that's probably the best thing that they have is they are athletic, and they do work pretty hard. Even on the practice side, for the most part, I've been very pleased with them throughout practices. Younger, freshman, sophomore age, they probably didn't really appreciate me as a coach because I was tough on them. I wanted to make sure that they were working hard and learning the way that we want to play it here at Hodgeman.
You mentioned that balance attack. I mean, I'm sure every coach would love to have, a player that averages 25 points a game. But, like, for you, like, do you kind of enjoy that balance attack and just even, like, when teams are trying to scout you?
Well, I would say, just from my experience scouting other teams, that would make it pretty tough. Because we always look at who is taking the shots, who is doing the scoring for the other teams, and we got certain people that guard certain positions. But looking down across ours here, we're all right about just at 10 or right below 10 points a game, and I would think that would make it tough. But again, for us to have that many at that spot, the only thing I would say is maybe sometimes we are kind of unselfish with the ball too much, but, that's okay. We encourage the sharing of the basketball, and it's working.
That defensive mentality, I feel like I've had a lot of like recent coaches that have come on and kind of emphasized that importance of defense, and I think we all know how important it is. But like for you, like what do you stress during practice and just, when you're with the girls, like what's the big thing you want to stress on defense?
The biggest thing we think about every single game is to try to hold teams under 40. That's our number. So that's the biggest thing for us. If you take a look at some of the games that we have lost, most of those games teams have been over 40. But, we've had some games this year where we haven't shot the ball very well. And, when you don't shoot the ball very well, you got to defend really, really well to have a chance. And these girls have done that every night. Again, I always tell them, we keep working on the shooting. It will come. So hopefully I'm not the one I don't want to feel like I'm lying to them, but it will come if they keep working at it. And they have been. And we like to, on the defensive end, they just, it's just something that they have in them. They're a physical team. They're not going to back down from very much. And that's easy as a coach when you have girls that play like that.
Trent Bright, head coach of Hodgeman County girls basketball, joining us here on the show. That state experience last year, getting to go to Colby and getting into that first round, like what was that like for your girls? Just being able to get back to the state tournament.
Well, that was fun. I'd never been in that arena before, and it's a really nice venue to play in. It was a great experience for these girls. We faced a really tough Lebo team, and they got us pretty good. And I'm kind of the type of person where I'm not a good loser. So I had not watched that game until right before we were starting this season. And I was able to go back and look at it. And, there was a turning point. We were really neck and neck through that first quarter. And about halfway through the second quarter, they kind of jumped out on us. So, we will always want to lean back on that. You have to learn from those experiences. And I think they have. And, being seniors and being motivated here to get back, hopefully we can rely on those experiences and get back to where we want to.
I mean, how much easier was it, like, even for your motivation? I mean, getting into the state tournament, like you said, like having the 7 seniors now, I got to imagine, like, the season just had a lot of potential.
It kind of makes you nervous, though, because it's going to be a big gap after this year. We are losing the 7 seniors, and we have a pretty good younger group coming up, but you always think about that as you're going through the season, and maybe things aren't going the right way, and you're like, man, I could have done this different. But we just got to keep looking forward, keep moving forward. We're about to the end, and that can make some people nervous, and hopefully we can stay strong and stay together. The girls have been doing a very good job of that, and as far as a coach being thinking about that is, I'm just proud of these girls, appreciative of being able to coach a group like this, being able to stay with 7 seniors. It is kind of a blessing to be able to do that. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned the youth. Like, what has it been like building that youth program up in the Jetmore area? Like, have you seen an even bigger interest in just basketball in general?
Like I said, let's see. So this is like I said, 7th year of coaching girls basketball. So we have been to the state tournament like 3 out of the last 5 years, and you do see a growth. You do see an interest. We do have 18 out at a smaller 1A school, and just going through the season, there's a lot of times we don't get full JV games, and so that kind of makes you proud as a coach that these girls want to be a part of it and they want to play. And hopefully those numbers stay strong as we keep moving forward. Just seeing some of the youth teams, we do have good numbers on there too. So that is exciting for us.
You used to coach the boys team at Hodgeman County, and now, like you said, your 7th year with the girls. I know there's some obvious things, but what were the main differences for you as a coach and your approach just going from the boys game to the girls game?
Well, I would say, before I got into coaching girls, before I even thought about doing it, I reached out to some very successful girls coaches. I'm not really going to say the names, but, I did ask them, what's the biggest difference? What's the one thing I need to concentrate on coaching at the girls' side? And the main thing I got from all 3 of them was they talked about, just being able to build the team together. And, so we adapted from John Gordon, the we over me thing. And, that kind of helps us. We always refer back to that. I asked the girls this year if they wanted to change the back of their shirts, and they all said no. So, we've kept with that. Hopefully we can keep with that. So that kind of helps us with the 7 strong on the senior side, that they do work together. They do play well together. And so that's always fun to watch.
Team chemistry, I think that's noted in like any sport, coach, like where, you got to have that team chemistry to play better. But like sometimes you're like, oh, okay, is that just coach speak? Like you're in the trenches, like, it. Like, I mean, have you seen teams that maybe weren't as good, like, didn't necessarily, I don't want to say they didn't get along, but they weren't as close off the court, and then the differences between when they are close off the court.
Yeah, sometimes they can put that aside. You can have teams that maybe don't get along off the court and they can do it on the court. But a lot of times I always feel like, if they can get along off the court, it almost seems like it's much easier on the floor. And that comes from communicating on the floor to almost, having each other's back as you go through the season's grind. And, maybe you don't always agree with the coach. And, I'm sure they don't always agree with some of the stuff, but, they always stick together. And that's a good thing to see.
Coach, appreciate the time. Best of luck the rest of the season.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate your coverage.
That is Trent Bright, head coach of the Hodgeman County girls basketball team. We'll have more of the show right after the break.